Hey, it's Seven Kevin. There's a popular meme in the Harry Potter community where Dumblebumble gets real mad at Happle Papple for putting his name in the Gobble Bobble of Fobble novel. To clarify, I'm not a part of the Harry Potter community. Nothing against them, but it's not like I'm a Harry Potter superfan who knows that Daniel Radcliffe had exactly 82 chin hairs by the last movie. I read the books and that's about it. However, I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and as someone who's never seen the books or the movies, I've been recommended by a couple friends to read the books instead. Perhaps the movies leave out key scenes, characters, themes, who knows. I don't really care about Lord of the Rings, but I have gotten really interested in the idea of adaptations and mediums through which you present stories. Recently, people have gotten really up in arms about the constant sequels, threequels, and reboots, while ignoring that a lot of movies are adaptations of books and novels. Shrek is based on a kid's book. Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, these are obvious books. Some are more loose adaptations, and others more faithful. What about audiobooks? Are audiobooks considered adaptations? In the very most raw definition of the word, it is certainly a work getting translated into something else. But can it be considered to be achieving something different than regular books? We could look at studies and compare differences, yada yada yada, but that compares the efficacy of information, not really if they can be considered different mediums. Here's what I think. A book requires you to read a sentence, string together meanings, and process those meanings. You can argue that audiobooks work very similarly, just replace read with hear. But is that really the same? One of the biggest draws to audiobooks is that you can multitask with an audiobook. Fold laundry, drive a car. These are undeniably one of the main reasons why people consume audiobooks over regular books. If that's true, then the generally passive act of listening can't really elicit the same response that regular reading does. Does that mean that different mediums rely on different senses? If we can translate a book that requires vision to see into an audiobook that relies on hearing, can we apply that to other ways to perceive our world? Is Braille a different way to read? Could you somehow convert a book into a meal that can be eaten to provide the same story? Could you smell a book? How far can you push this idea of experimenting with different mediums? Mediums are a really important thing. Famously, Alan Moore thought that Watchmen was meant to be a comic, and the movie adaptation went against what he wanted. There's a difference in how you absorb that information, whether it's the way you choose to actively or passively absorb, or maybe something different. Mediums can completely change how a story unfolds. Take Dune. Great movie, I guess, but comparing the books and the movies, they're completely different. 90% of the book is inner thoughts, and the other 10% is stuff that none of the characters can actually perceive. A book can pretty easily do that, but how do you show a character's thoughts in a movie? Given the circumstances, the Dune movies are pretty good. I'm not going to give spoilers for Dune Messiah or whatever happens later on, but the Dune movies are really going to struggle reconciling the first couple movies with what happens later on. Maybe that's a good thing. When a story diverges from the source material, it can become worse, significantly worse, but you can also reach higher highs in the original story. The perfect case study of this is Full Metal Alchemist. With anime, sometimes the anime catches up to the manga, and you can either go the filler route, or you can separate entirely and have irreconcilable differences that fundamentally distinguish them. Full Metal Alchemist happens to have two different versions. They ran out of material to adapt, so they had to create a different ending, hence the original Full Metal Alchemist. Then they got the chance to reanimate the original story, and we got Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Both are critically acclaimed, and they're loved for different reasons. There could be a world where the GOT series differed from Gurm's ASOIF series, and still could have been great, just differently great. Hot D is supposedly going in a different direction that might be better than FOB, and ACOTS could be better than the D&E novellas. Change doesn't necessarily have to be bad. It just might be bad for the most part. This part's gonna get real technical, and real, like dunk a kid's head in the toilet for going, actually, but bear with me. Or not. Do whatever, chud nuts. So here's something really cool about written work. Written works don't really evolve. When you write something down, it stays like that, and it doesn't change. Now, obviously, it can change, but it shouldn't really. If you take your modern perspective into a written work, then you're changing the meaning of that work. Nothing wrong with that, but the original meaning is lost. Take Journey to the West. Sun Wukong is able to master the 72 earthly transformations, and he's able to jump 108,000 miles in a single stride. You could interpret this completely literally, but that would mean one of his 72 transformations is specifically a pine tree. You could interpret it as he has 72 types of powers, as some claim, but I think the answer is a lot more obvious. Old books, and especially translated books, lose meaning when trying to interpret them as you would now. 72 might just be an arbitrary number that represents some large sum rather than exactly 72. Compare that to oral tradition, and you can see a clear difference. Those stories are meant to change almost definitionally. Passing down stories like this changes them to fit into a new context. Isn't that so cool? Both of them? That you can tell the same story, but whether or not you speak it orally or write it down, you can create a completely new way to perceive it. In the realm of artistic mediums, anything can be art. I'm not just talking about an elephant smearing paint and then that selling for trillions of dollars. I'm also talking about how you can make art. You can draw a picture and your dad will hang it up on the fridge and pretend to be proud. But you could also use watercolors or oil paints. Jumping out into the third dimension, you could make a sculpture. You can take a picture and compress 3D space into an image. You could do digital art. You could spray graffiti on a wall. Draw, and keep drawing. But it feels like there are only really a couple ways to tell a story, through reading and through speaking. What I'm talking about is unique types of stories. Think Willy Wonka types of whimsy. Imagine eating Game of Thrones flavored popcorn that is somehow able to give you the story. SpongeBob popsicles that can retell seasons 1 through whatever we're at now. A Fast and the Furious air freshener so you can smell the franchise? Is that possible? Let's answer a hypothetical. Let's say you're born blind and you're given shapes. By feeling these shapes, you can tell what they are. The round one is a ball. The one with 8 vertices and 6 faces with 90-degree angles is a prism. The one that's all spiky and makes my hand bleed is a cactus. Wait. Sorry. Going back to the hypothetical. If you were to magically gain vision, would you be able to distinguish shapes by sight? I mean, I can see this one is all round, this one has 8 vertices, and this one I want as far away from me as possible. It should be easy to tell, right? This is a real thing called Molyneux's problem, and there is an answer. It's no. People who have been given sight back can eventually figure out the connection, but not immediately. How does this affect adaptations? Well, how exactly can we find a connection between senses? We can't easily connect vision and touch without actually engaging in correlating these behaviors. Does that mean that unless we actively connect stories to other senses, we can't understand it? The absence of evidence does not mean the evidence of absence. I generally don't like using quotes from other people, but I can give this one a pass because I barely understand it. There's so much that we don't know because we haven't discovered it yet. Until someone actually creates some kind of connection, no one is going to understand how to do this. So what does that mean for adaptations? How different could you get with this? It's said that a picture can tell 1,000 words. Could you write a story using only a single picture? Is that already a thing, just not yet legitimized as a story? Could you tell a story through lunch? Dinner? Can I cry touching someone else's story? Anytime any new advancement comes along, there are always people who prefer the traditional way. Fire? I don't know, man. That stuff hurts if you step on it. I think I'd rather take my chances. Is that a bad thing? Who the heck knows? All I know is you shouldn't take advice from the guy that says, heck, do what you want. But there are so many cool ways to tell stories, and if you like making stories, consider making one in a new radical way. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about the last one. Psychic mediums. Hey, it's Let It Edit, postscript. I just recognized a huge inspiration for this idea might be this video by Rhett and Link. I don't know if I was directly influenced by this video, but there are a lot of ideas between this video and that. If you want to watch a really creative use of different mediums to interpret work, try out this video. Alright, back to my stuff. All I know is you shouldn't take advice from the guy who says he's a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and yet he's never seen anything relating to it. All I know is you shouldn't take advice from the guy who still believes that Santa is real. It's just that instead he's an organization of fat bearded guys, so that way he can visit every house in one day.